Hello, and welcome back to Market Mamas. I'm Becky. This is my girl Kendra. So we are day traders from the West Coast, and we met in our first trading educational community back in 2021. We quickly became friends and accountability partners through our trading and have become quite a pair since then. So this podcast community at Market Mamas is our platform to speak authentically about real day-to-day challenges of learning to become consistently profitable day traders. Our goals are huge for our lives, and the challenges that we are growing through are really significant along the way. But every day we do everything we can to get 1% better and add value to our lives and our pursuits. So we hope we can actually add some value to yours as well. And for our value add today, we're going to talk about an incredibly important topic for all traders of any variety. It's risk management.
For sure. So great that we're having this conversation today. I was so surprised that we had not yet dedicated a full episode to risk management. It's really the pillar to any profitable, strong, and successful trading system. Becky and I have been on quite the journey developing and evolving our own over 3 years in trading now. And so it's still very hard to really dial it in. We also could not make this episode without highlighting some of our past moments from some of our Market Mama trader interviews. We've had multiple guests on the show now, and they've personally touched on this topic. So we want to make sure that we add their highlights, their insights really to the discussion as well. So it's kind of cool. We're going to do something different today. We're going to link in some of those full videos in the description, of course, but we're also going to show a few clips and talk about what they had to add just to kind of circle back and add them to this conversation as well. So let's get going on risk management.
Yes. Okay, so the deeper we get into our trading careers, both Kendra and I, we now understand risk management so much more deeply than we ever had before during our first year or more of trading. So risk management, it's both logistical and a psychological topic, actually. So first, let's talk logistics. If you have studied trading at all, you've likely heard about the risk-reward ratio or the R factor. So this is what you will risk in a given trade based on your stop loss placement within your trade bracket order. For example, and to keep the number simple, based on your trade plan and position size, you may be planning a $100 risk for your trade. The ratio is in comparison to your profit target intention. So then if you have a 1-to-1 R factor, then your profit target is $100 from your entry price. And so a 2-to-1 trade would then have a profit target of $200 based on your entry. So for the greatest impact to your account and a sustainable upward trajectory of your trades, it's recommended to have at least more than a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. Now there's so much content on YouTube regarding this topic exactly. And a lot of people will say, I don't take a trade if it's not a 1-to-3, a 1-to-4, 1-to-5 risk reward ratio. I think that their advice is probably very solid, but it's also their trade plan that works for their system. So you got to sort that out for yourself. But generally, more than a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio is definitely recommended. And that makes sense, right? Over time, your wins should outweigh your losses to grow your account the most effectively.
Yeah, it definitely will help you, have a better imbalance from your profitable days to your losing days for sure. So an appropriate stop placement should show you where is my trade wrong. A stop loss needs to respect your trade plan levels. Maybe you're trading support and resistance. Maybe you're trading a structure, a trend line, whatever you're basing your bias on. But it's really hard to stay in a trade if you don't give your trade the room it needs within that frame. So your trade needs to breathe, and you can't just place your stop loss based on a set amount of points you're comfortable with. I can say from experience because I did that so many times in my journey, and it's just frustrating. So a really good entry can definitely help you with this. And sometimes you can catch really awesome, great, powerful momentum breakout that's right into profit. But more often than not, it usually requires waiting for price to actually go against your direction and then executing quickly, if you do want to get that best risk to reward, like Becky was talking about. And then I've also found that just respecting the risk that you've put on for that one setup is really a key factor. And if you do get stopped out, then you just have to move on because it's so much easier to find another entry, whether that trade's still in play or see if there's another opportunity that you were not realizing was setting up. But any way you cut it, like you have to respect that risk for that one particular setup, that one particular play, because holding on to a losing position and letting your stop loss bleed, like that's the harshest part of risk management. That's just so hard to overcome and to not do.
That was so powerful for me and changed the trajectory of my trading when I figured out accurate stop loss placement for my trading style and to put it where in the most logical place for where my trade plan is wrong. So that really just transformed my risk management, I would say for sure in the last year or two. So good tips. Another key factor to consider is the percentage of your account size that you will risk in one given trade in order to stay in the game long term. So there's two different approaches to this. Younger traders need to take smaller hits to keep their accounts viable to trade and to learn. So if you start with a 10K account, for example, and you make choices to risk $1,000 on every trade that you enter, and then you take the full stop outs if the trade goes against you, well, then you essentially only have 10 lost chances of surviving with this account and a bit more if you get some wins mixed in. But blowing an account in a few days or weeks by going in heavy like that it's really unnecessary, and it will teach you way less. So you essentially then have a much smaller sample size of trades that you are learning from, versus if you only risk $50 per trade with the 10K account, then you'll have 200 stop outs available, and even more and that's only if you win 0 trades, 200 executions. But as you're learning, you'll have even more with the wins mixed in. And so all of those executions, that increased volume of execution potential by taking smaller hits, that will educate you so much more if you're listening. It keeps you viable with a live account so you can learn and pay your market tuition over time and at a steady rate that doesn't break your heart or your bank account in the process. With this approach, you have a shot at not ever blowing an account. In fact, not ever, because it can be sustainable as you grow and develop as a trader. But now here, if you're a middle to more advanced trader, it can be a little bit different. So once you have developed a solid edge and a bit more experience, you can more readily spot a superior setup, and you may choose to accept a little more risk with a higher probability of the trade being accurate. So essentially, risking a larger percentage of your accounts on your best pitch when you identify it setting up. So maybe you have a real tried and true bread and butter setup that has a very high win rate for you. So I might enter that trade with double my standard size, as I recognize a higher probability of winning means that these are fundamentally less risky trades. And so that is a factor to consider when you have gained the experience required to make those analyses for yourself and your system. That's kind of the next levels where you're headed.
Yeah, really, really good points. Striving for that sustainability as a learning, developing trader will help eliminate the trading trauma for sure. Build your confidence and just how really respect your account size. Having that daily loss limit for your system in order to stay in the game. Totally agree. And the hard stop is a crucial part of a day trader's ability to keep alive and healthy and active. So there are days when staying cash is actually the best form of risk management. But if that does fail, then a hard stop can really protect you on those days when you just can't get in sync or you're just underperforming for any reason, really. It can be very difficult to turn a red day around, especially if you do start to engage in any form of overtrading or fix-it mode, as we like to call it, and you just don't want to take a small loss on your day. You can really go from worst. Things can go from bad to worse, like really quick. When we sat with Chris, actually from the Funded Society, he had some great input on risk management as well, and how it was the greatest factor in his trading breakthrough. And he really normalized, how challenging of a task this really is. And he even shared about having had to install a Chrome extension for himself to lock himself out after 3 trades a day. So let's take a look back at this helpful risk management advice.
So overtrading, I feel like we go through that. We have a trading plan, and then that just goes out the window. A couple losses in. So how I override that is there's this Chrome extension where it blocks a certain site. So with me, I have like 3 trades a day, And once 3 trades a day, I just click a button on my computer and it locks Tradeovate for like 6 hours. So I tell them, like, if you don't have discipline, create it. So now every time my teammate or my crew, my team, they overtrade, I'm like, okay, lock yourself out. There's another day. So that's one thing that's helping overtrading, because now they're forming that habit. Even though it's so hard to press that lock button, once you do it more and more, like now you're building those habits. Now it's easier for you to just walk away compared to in the very beginning. We're like, why would I walk away? I need to make that back. Because now once the market closes, now you're so calm. Now you can think logically. And I'm like, where was this person before? So, if, like I said, if you don't have discipline, find it somewhere else, or, have it installed somewhere. So that way you have that discipline button.
Oh my gosh, the discipline button. Yes, that was so good. I love how he went on to like really talk about all of his systems and how honoring that puts you in a much calmer state and a mindset to think logically and like to maintain your long game trajectory. So that transitions so nicely into another helpful practice of journaling. So journaling will show you your stats and then you can adjust. So numbers wise, perhaps historically, you start out the week with a loss. And so maybe you choose to reduce your risk on Mondays based on your data. Some people also will consider if they have a nicely green week. And then on Fridays, they might choose to reduce risk. So you can go into your weekend green on the week, regardless. It's inevitable for many traders to experience some emotional carryover from a losing session. And so those traders might choose then that added caution on Fridays, especially to preserve their vibe going into the weekend, if Fridays are statistically a struggle day for them and their system. So the same goes for certain market conditions and what you've learned in your journaling on that. Do you have a pattern of trading tilt in certain conditions? Types of days or patterns that are just inherently more difficult for the type of trader that you are? Well, then you can limit your exposure and your risk on those days. And it's certainly worth considering as a part of your system's risk management. So for one, I struggle the most historically on bullish trending days. I just have it in me that I have tried to catch the top so many times. It's just dumb at this point. And so if I analyze and I read that this may be the type of day that we might experience, then I do now approach my day with more caution and a specific approach trading setup that prioritizes me staying very calm and focused and honoring my trade plan and execution choices more cautiously, knowing that there's added risk just with the type of day I'm anticipating based on the way I see the market. So there's a lot of ways to approach that. Okay, so now we don't want to get any more technical beyond that because we really want to dig into the heart of risk management challenges. So that is really truly embracing and trusting and exhibiting strong risk management in real-time trading. Understanding technically how to place your stop and what makes an appropriate stop loss for different market conditions, that comes with time and experience and is, logical, physical on the charts within your instrument of choice. But every trade and every session, respecting yourself and your trading business enough to consistently follow your risk management, that's the core obstacle, I believe, to most consistency in a trader's outcome.
Yes, accepting risk is critical. So saying I love risk has been my mantra for the better part of 2024, because I really needed to rewire my brain to fully accept and embrace that this is the game of risk I'm playing. And this quote by the amazing J.K. Rowling really hits home for me when I reflect on how I tried to avoid risk early on. So it goes like this. Some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you may as well have not lived at all, in which case you fail by default. So you could literally substitute the words trading and trade with life and lived, and it's so applicable to trading, right? And I can only speak from my experience, of course, of my psychological hurdles, really just being more fear-based, but I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. And I've done so much work, to really change that channel in my mind, to risk being on my side. It's what gives me this great opportunity. It's what's required to give life and let my trade plan really and system really serve me. So Becky's mentor, Jermaine, really emphasized the importance of accepting risk when putting on a position. So I wanted to also take a look at his approach in this next interview clip.
But risk is very important. So I'm always thinking, how much am I going to lose? Right? I don't really think about how much am I going to win. Right? I'm always thinking about, okay, what am I going to risk in this trade? How much am I willing to lose? Can I walk away? Will this trigger me? And do it. And it's a part of the emotional checklist.
For sure. So it's never going to work 100% of the time, of course. But when I do wait for those times and I do really see it when it's my sweet spot and the market is setting up just how I like her, then putting on risk and letting it go and letting it flow, I'm really trying to get better at that. And I am getting better at it.
Yeah, girl, you have grown tremendously over this last year. I think we all do. I mean, anybody who shows up to something as hard as trading and tries their ass off every day, the only thing that happens is growth and experience. So kudos to all that you have improved on. It's really impressive to watch. So, and I love it as well. I love this growth. I mean, and the ability to capitalize on an A+ setup, it's amazing. But let's be real. So catching an A+ setup and riding it to the mountaintop and having this fat day, it's amazing, but that's not always the outcome, right? That's why we have to have risk management to remain in the game. On a whole, there are at least two distinctly different ways of exhibiting a total forfeit of risk management and experiencing a trauma day. Interestingly, Kendra and I are opposites in general on this. On the few and far between tilt days for Kendra, for example, she generally experiences this by way of multiple stop outs, engaging in fix-in mode while still generally honoring the stop loss placement of each trade, but then kind of repeatedly getting back in with the market after each hit to get back to green or even just to get back to a small loss. But in this scenario of risk management struggle, if we are not taking a break after multiple losses so that we can maintain a clear mind and an ideal focus, generally it becomes very irregular and unreliable to consistently execute after that. So for me, like, I've also done this for sure. And I know when I do this, I even in those days, I forget to eat. I'm ignoring my other to-do lists, my responsibilities. I generally just mismanage literally the entire day, and it feels awful. But for me, like on my personal trading and my style, most of my tilt days occur in a slightly different manner. So this is how I generally throw risk management out the window on the days when I let it happen. So I will often over leverage and or dollar cost average, and I can allow just one wrong trade to blow my accounts. It's wild really to think about and to explain to anyone that is not a trader. I think it's literally the dumbest gambling ever. But it's something that I'm working on deliberately to improve. It's actually easier to do than you would think. But you know, it's the situation where you add to losers to try and get a better price and to trust that it will change. And you're almost trading hope. And it's the point that my account can no longer hold the risk of the size of my trade. And then the account blows as the price action continues to pull away from me because you're essentially adding to a loser. And so in that situation, I choose to tune out reason and data and logic. And instead, I refuse to be wrong. And I am going to win. And me and my ego, we're just going to ride this sucker into the ground if that's what it takes. So this is not ever sustainable for an account, and it causes undue pain to the trader, also known as me. So accepting the risk means accepting that you are wrong and that your read was incorrect at the time when your support or resistance level failed. So when you are wrong, you must cut the trade because your setup that you were trading, it's no longer valid once you have the data that the level failed to hold. So we have to then let the ego go. And ego will kill you in trading. It's far superior to make and use your system in a factual manner. So if you traded based on your support and that support fails, your trade plan is no longer valid. So that's the crux of it, right? Day trader Phil, so he put this very frankly during his discussion with us when he said, be faithful to your system. So let's look back at what he added about risk management. This is really good.
Yeah, actually, there's a gentleman that I listen to. He's been in the markets 30 plus years. I love these veterans because of the things they say. And he says, you know, if you have a trading system, you got to be faithful to your trading system, right? To understand if it truly works or not, is it truly working? And I'll tell you that's why we compare it to a business, right? This is a business. Whether you like it or not, you are in a business. And when that business becomes insolvent, guess what? You're out of business. When you run out of capital, you're out of business. You can't do any more business.
I totally agree on this part about being sustainable. And as Kendra mentioned earlier, the perspective and practice to live to trade another day concept, the long game mentality, a growth mindset, make a red trade educational so that it's productive and it doesn't have to be traumatic or painful. This is the ideal trading situation.
Totally is. Love all of that for sure. And another, well, I should say I love and hate it all. Again, this is a hard freaking topic to discuss. I mean, okay, another often overlooked part that can really help with cultivating strong risk management, I believe, stems from keeping a healthy outlook and tuning out and tuning off when it's time to, really not internalizing the difficult days so much. And goodness, like I can recall from just being in my first year of trading, and I couldn't even take a shower without just trading constantly in my head, thinking about the charts. I know Becky and I would both dream of candlestick patterns, it's a whole thing. So, but now on losing days, when we really mess it up, we have grown to understand the importance of not ruminating on it. When we had Trader Elier on our show, he really gave us a great account to how he kind of just pivots from his trading on the bad days and how he spends time loving on his little man, how he allows that to help replenish him and just get him ready for the next day. And I just loved it so much. So let's take a look at what Elier shared with us.
And it is actually great that I have this right now in my life because, it's actually helping me on my psychology to get over anything bad that happened. Could be at work or in trading. Initially we used to get a lot of depression because of bad days, bad weeks in trading, and now I have a bad day. Of course, I have a stronger mindset than a year or so ago, right? But right now I have a bad day and I just go out, close my shop. I just go out and enjoy the time with him. And it just take everything out of me. I just check it out like this, and I'm ready to go basically replenish of energy for the next day. We need to spend time on trading, but we need to find that balance. Okay, we need to find that balance for developing a healthy mindset and to actually help us go through all the difficult times that we have in our way to the final success.
Goodness, I feel that so much in my heart. And I'll be honest, I've really had tearful mornings on occasion taking my boys to school. And instead of being ashamed of it, I've really leaned into showing them that it's okay. I reassure them and myself really that mommy's doing something extremely difficult. And I have days where I disappoint myself. But having that time away from the charts and then connecting with them, it really does refresh and center me. And then modeling, that resilience and that big emotions are okay. Not to get too off topic of risk management, of course, but I do believe trading has made me a more well-rounded parent as well. And in our Mothers Who Trade episode, we featured the Parenting Manifesto by the amazing Brene Brown. And that's just really wonderful. So if anyone wants to look that up or watch that episode, I recommend it.
The heartstrings on this topic. I really love that episode we did about mothers and trading, and that Parenting Manifesto is really powerful, and it totally plays into this, how we recover from these really hard days and model that for our children. It's gonna be good for them to teach resilience. We can do hard things and not die. Okay, so in terms of my personal trading season, so when you take a stop out and you end your day red, which I actually did the other day, I'm not going to lie, I hate it with every part of my being because I want to end green. I love that way more. That's the ideal situation when I hit my profit target or higher and I feel like I nailed my trade. I have all this good energy and I'm singing while I'm making breakfast. such a better vibe. But it's like also, it's big swings. And so those also are not as neutral as I could be. So on the flip side of that, on the days where I just cannot nail it. So yesterday, it was a day in which I felt like it was going to push up and pull back down to support, and then it was going to go long. And so this was literally my trade plan. Let's catch it when it cuts down and then take it up. And so I just got in one level too high. It was going to dip lower before it moved. And so I needed to respect my reasonable stop loss that I put in. So I got in thinking this level would hold. I put my stop loss below it. And so I need to not have those big swings that I talked about, like the really high highs, the really low lows. I need to accept the stop out when my level fails. And so I did. I took the stop out and all my accounts were red, and it was not my favorite. And I was near my daily loss limit after that trade closed. So I had to walk away. I was frustrated. My mental capital at that point was in question because of the frustration. So I didn't have my mental capital at peak, and I already was near my daily loss limit. So in this situation, I had to admit that I just didn't nail it and I needed to walk away. So I did. And then literally the market did the move. Like it came one more level down and it held. And after that, I was hot with frustration. I'm not gonna lie, because then the market freaking flew up all day. So these days they sting like a mother because you had a really good trade plan and you just fumbled the ball. And what I experienced throughout that day, it was like a period of really acute annoyance when I was watching on my phone that it was just plugging right up without me and my accounts were all red on the day. However, I busied myself with other things. I actually had a full day scheduled. And so that also was a factor, right? And so I didn't have the time to trade anymore, to have that focus on the charts. So later that evening, when I was reflecting on it and doing my process of going through my day and touching up my notes and what I did right and what I need to work on to do differently, that's when I was like, okay, you know what? Market's closed, the day is done. I actually protected my accounts because I really did respect the level that I thought would hold, and I accepted the stop out because I didn't have the ideal entry anymore. So I prioritized the fact that I had a busy day and I should not leave trades unsupervised as I would have had to do if I got back in. And so it's actually really a win, which is a hard thing when you're growing into trader maturity, to recognize a red day within your risk tolerance as being a win. But it is. I just fought with the market all day and I missed my acupuncture appointment and potentially just over traded, over leveraged, then you can get into trouble with drawdown situations. I mean, there are micro wins, even in the struggle, is I guess the lesson from that. And if we can be the person who can see the positive and grow through that growth mindset, it feels really so much better. So like I said, it was a real struggle mid-morning when I was not in the trade that I really wanted to be in. But at the end of the day, I actually felt proud that I was able to let it all lie in a safe position. And so today I actually came back strong and did well, and resulted in me gaining back some confidence again. You know, like my trade system is good and solid and reliable. And so I just need to let it be. And so getting through that and just being able to walk away and lean into my fundamentals, recognize that if I am by and large at least 60 to 70% green as a trader, that's really good. And there is a reason why we have a protective stop, not a stop loss, but a protective stop. Think of it that way. And it's designed to protect your accounts, protect you, protect your progress. And so walking away and recognizing that you have an edge, you have fundamentals, you are a good trader, and there's always tomorrow, right? The market is abundant. This is literally the abundance, the growth mindset. That's what I'm trying to always make sure that I can live in, instead of the struggle and the strife and, she's not going to come back for me and I need to get in right now and lock in my points. That actually holds me back. So I want to stop holding myself back and recognize that there's enough struggle in the big picture of learning to be a consistently profitable trader. And so I've identified this as something that I can chill on. So I need to settle down, accept the game of probabilities, and let each day kind of live on its own and trust my risk management in practice for what it does for me.
Oh my gosh, so much to unpack. It's awesome. Like, way to manage your day, way to, really reinforce that reframing of it, of that risk management. That's how it's done. And the more we do that, the more we do choose to view, a stop out or, a red day, manageable, red day within our risk allotment, as a part of our winning edge, like it doesn't affect us as much. Like you mentioned that extreme annoyance, that acute annoyance, like, girl, yes, like that is the worst feeling. But the only way we'll ever overcome that is to have more days where we don't fight back. We're like, because it's okay. Like you overcame FOMO that day, right? Because it's okay to miss an opportunity. It's okay to have a great trade that played out and you didn't get to take advantage of it. Like that's just the game we're in, and trusting that there is tomorrow, and then there's next week, and then there's next month, and then there's next year, and we are going to continue to only improve, like you mentioned earlier. So any given day can certainly present a whole different story and be complicated or not. You can have a great clean trading session or not. So that really is a testament to risk management and just how powerful it is to be in our foundation that we can actually grow upon. Like Becky said, not holding ourselves back because it's hard enough, right? So this is amazing. And that's the goal, to not be living in that one day, in that one loss or that one outcome, but to just honor the bigger picture. So good job with that. And that yesterday is a vote, right? It's a vote for, what was the Atomic Habits quote? Your identity emerges from your habits, and every action is a vote for the type of person that you wish to become. And so it never feels comfortable, but it's like the longer you go throughout your day, the more you're able to be proud that you were able to overcome that. So growth is uncomfortable. And, I've always said, when God wants you to grow, he makes you extremely uncomfortable. So it's just a sign. It's a sign that you're growing, and that's amazing. Regarding any loss in trading, we like to say, feel it and learn from it. Tell someone, take a break if you need to, but then focus on the next one good trade, whether that's within your session or whether that's tomorrow. That's just what a trader does. Own what you did, but also, focus back on your system. Remind yourself of the skills and how you want to be, how you want to participate in the market, both with winning and losing. So, and then just get back in the arena. We get right back on the horse. Don't discuss your really hard days as much as possible with non-traders, because it's just, trading is hard enough. And when you try to talk about it with people who aren't even in the locker room with you, that could just make you, have even more doubts that you may already be feeling or question your abilities. So that's a big no for us. Because a lot of people think of trading as gambling. They don't understand it. And there have been so many, we know that the success rate is very low, and it's very challenging to become a successful trader. So with all that against us, we really need to just keep the people around us who are extremely dedicated as we are, who are working just as hard, and who have the belief in our abilities to overcome and do this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I really think that protecting your trading journey is important, because you will take stop outs and they will hurt. And if you are in a tearful place based on a loss that you really thought you would win, or else you wouldn't have entered the trade, like, respect yourself and like have that moment, and don't expose yourself to more trauma by talking to someone who has no real concept of what it means to take a stop out, and having that be like a reasonable part of your trading journey. So, I mean, I would definitely second that, Kendra, to, pick your people that you confide in on purpose, because they will help you grow stronger. So well said.
Awesome. Well, we hope we did justice to this topic today. Risk management is everything. So let us know, share your feedback, please, your comments, what your trading risk management looks like, what it feels like, how you've overcame the challenges it presents. And we will be back with more topics soon. Please check out our beautiful website. Every episode Becky creates a beautiful blog, and we also have a merch store that has some awesome items to purchase as well if you want to support us. We also donate to a local women's nonprofit. We're all about women empowerment here at Market Mamas, and we will be back. Our best trading days are ahead. Take care.